Welcome to Lost Sheep Found. I'm your host, Carrie. Brandy and I are excited to continue with part 2 of Amanda's story. If you haven't listened to part 1, go back and listen now. As with all episodes, our hope is that by sharing her journey, others may find comfort knowing they are not alone. Also, I want to take a moment to inform you that this episode contains explicit language, discussions about sensitive topics related to religion, personal struggles, sexual abuse, and other stories that may trigger strong emotions. If you're experiencing a crisis or mental health challenge, please seek guidance from a qualified professional.
I'll be in my room. So I went down to the basement, down in my room. I heard the garage door open. She came inside, and I just said, what happened to Dad? He's been doing to me. And she, oh my gosh, I'm pretty sure of the 1 million things she thought I was going to say. That was definitely not it. It was definitely not what she was expecting. And she just had like one tear. And she grabbed the door handle and she walked out. She said nothing. And that was it. She never did say anything. I know she did stuff because all these things started happening. I had appointments with prosecutors and police, and all kinds of mail started coming, which a lot of people don't get. A lot of people don't get their day in court. They don't get the justice. They don't get anything like that. Mine was very swift and exacting. So that was never a question like, was I telling the truth, or, was he going to pay for this? That is all in there. It's part of the story. But again, it was like how it was done was so cold. Yeah. And it added to this abuse that was already happening. There was never like this, finally I can, this is my soft spot. I can land here.
Just to take a step back, once you told your mom, then CPS, right, came to your door, and there was court proceedings.
Yes.
Or tell us about how it came out and the injustice or the justice that you thought was coming.
Right. Okay, so another weird thing, I'm sure she knew they were coming. I had no idea they were coming. I was in my room, and all of a sudden there was a knock at the door, and I think there was a man and a woman. There was a briefcase, and I just remember them. I don't remember the conversation. It's like one of the holes that never came back. But I remember them telling me that I didn't have to worry. I never had to go to his house ever again. That's all I really remember. And I remember feeling like, oh, so sad for my brother, because it didn't happen to him and he didn't understand. Now, a lot of the reason why I didn't want to say anything too was because that was going to, for me, I'd be glad, but for him, he was so young, he was never going to see him the same or ever again. And so, that was another one of those things like, relief. Thank God I don't have to worry about going there anymore. But could she at least have told me they were coming?
Yeah, prepared you.
Prepared me? Like, someone's coming to talk to you about this today? Or, you know what I mean?
Because she had to know.
She had to know.
Yeah, they made an appointment.
Yeah. Yes, and they came in like they knew they were supposed to be there. They had whatever. Oh my gosh.
These people are going to be coming to talk to you. I will be with you.
Yes.
Don't be afraid.
Right.
Motherly.
No, she didn't even come down with them. She sent them down into the basement, and my room was the last room. And they just knocked at the door, and they came in. So, yeah, CPS did come. They let me know. I don't have to go there anymore, so there was that relief. I don't have to worry about the custody arrangements and all of that. And then I got my parents, because I was drinking that night that I got in trouble, they sold my car. So I was borrowing the minivan to go to school and come back home. And they let me know, my mom let me know that I could take the van the next day to school because I needed to go to the police department. I need to leave early to go meet an officer, a detective, and he was going to drive me downtown Seattle to go talk to the prosecutor. And I was like, by myself? And she's like, yeah, by yourself. And I said, okay. And so it was just weird. So I show up to the Bellevue little precinct building, and I get in this green Ford Taurus. Okay, I like cars, so I wrote about it in the book. But it will never permanently scarred me. I'm like, a Ford Taurus, really?
This piece
Could we
of
at
junk?
least drive something badass on the way to do something badass, like catch the bad guys? Could you have, I don't know, a BMW? Something.
This one calls for a Lamborghini. I need to get there quick.
Can we at least drift our way around to the courthouse? Did we have to be so incredibly boring? But we were in, squishy chairs, and ugly green Ford Taurus. Anyway, sorry, it bothered me. It still bothers me. And, we make the long trek down there to downtown Seattle. I mean, it's so daunting, so intimidating. These big buildings, the hustle and bustle. There's a lot of homeless and just a lot of commotion, in the city, in a big city like that. And for me, I just felt like I could never quite catch my breath when it came to this situation. It was always just being like a ball being thrown at my face. You know what I mean? Like it was hitting me and then I was reacting. It was never, hey, heads up. And then I was ready to catch something. It just, like, I don't know. And that whole like commotion of this city kind of represented my inner turmoil. Just this, such a mess everywhere swirling and I just can't quite get on top of it. But we go in this big tall building, ride the elevator up and go sit down with, and I'm talking to 2 or 3 grown men in suits, badges, and I know I'm doing what I need to do, but I'm the whole time just thinking, like, where is my mom? Why is she not here? I'm only 16. It's just weird for someone to not be with me. Like, what if these people were crazy? What if the Ford Taurus didn't actually go to where it's supposed to go? You know what I mean? It's my word against him, and I don't know this guy. I've never met him before.
This is a stranger danger episode that could happen.
Yeah, it was infuriating. Right? Like, how am I in this situation with this person? I don't even know. Like, you say he's an officer. You could be crazy. And just because you're an officer, like I've learned, doesn't matter who you are. You could still be crazy. So, yeah, I answered a lot of their questions. And I do remember the prosecutor, he says, so what am I supposed to do? Just knock on his door and say, hey, Amanda says you did this? And he's just going to say, yeah, I did. And I said, well, yeah. And he said, oh, yeah, well, that'd be the first one in the history. It's your word against his. This is probably not going to go anywhere. And I said, he's been telling on himself for years at the Jehovah's Witness meetings. It's not like he doesn't want to tell you. He just, I don't know, maybe didn't know to come talk to you.
Were they surprised to hear that he has confessed?
Oh, yeah. The prosecutor called me at work. And he said, you were right. We knocked at the door and he immediately knew why we were there. And at court, I didn't have to testify because he pled guilty. Yeah, so at least there's that. Again, you know what I mean? The guy that did the most wrong, he also did right by me in the ways that he could. You know what I mean? He didn't put me through a lengthy trial. I didn't have to submit a statement. I didn't have to testify. I didn't have to say a word. I didn't even have to show up if I didn't want to. But I went because I wanted to see like what's going to happen. And actually the first court appointment where he was supposed to be sentenced, they forgot to bring the prisoners over from the jail to the court. And so then it got rescheduled. Yeah. My mom dropped me off, her and my stepdad. And you read
I know. I'm sorry. I freshly read the book, so I'm like
on page 60.
That infuriated me also. So I wanted to hug you. Yeah, go ahead and tell the story.
So mad. Well, we have this court date. My mom's going to take me downtown Seattle so I could go and see. I thought she was going with me. I thought they were going. So my stepdad's coming. Him and I did not really get along that great, but I didn't care.
But he was in law enforcement too, so he could be like, hey, this is probably what's going to happen.
Yeah. That never happened. The one time I remember there was a glimmer of compassion in that man. It was after my dad had parked in the parking lot and watched me all shift, and he actually he came to my work and he demanded that I come out and talk to him. And I told my boss, if I'm not back in like 3 minutes, you need to call the police or come get me. You know what I mean? And so I think they called my parents. I'm not sure what happened, but my stepdad found out about that. And when I got home from work, he was like, instead of yelling at me like he usually did, he was like, don't ever go anywhere with him again, or you call me right away. And I was like, oh, somebody cares. Like somebody's actually going to show up and do something, because until then he's been quiet. Like he said nothing about this, And so it wasn't like the warm and fuzzy people coming to court, but at least they were somebody going to go with me. So we pull up into the big, this big building. The courthouse is like, I don't know, on the 23rd floor or something in downtown Seattle. And they're like, okay, it's here. Go up to whatever floor. And I said, you're not coming? And they're like, no. My mom says, no, I'm going to Nordstrom's. So I got out. I go through the metal detector. I get on the elevator. And I go sit in the courtroom. And there's all my family, aunts, uncles. They're all there sitting on the other side. They're not there to be with me. At first, I was excited to see them. I'm like, oh, people. And they're like, I'm the one that did this to him, basically. And then, unfortunately, they didn't bring the prisoners over, and so they weren't going to be able to do anything that day. And so I go back down and I wait and I wait and I wait because my mom thinks that I'm in court. I don't know how long she thought I was going to take, but I waited for, it seemed like forever.
No cell phones.
No cell phone.
No texting.
No texting. Nothing. There's like some, homeless lady comes up to me and she's like cat calling to me and people are looking at me. I was like hell. Just did not want to live. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just so tired.
Yeah.
I'm so tired. And so the next time I was very mad how she handled that. And just so you're wondering, I don't shop at Nordstrom's.
She holds a grudge.
Yeah. Nordstrom's not my friend.
I am not perfect. And there are certain things I'm like, I could find a sweater somewhere else. You are not. My mom spent plenty for all the generations you'll ever get out of my line. So, yeah, I'm good. But yeah, so the next time she did come with me alone, like I had asked, I'm like, I don't want Rick to go. This is already so hard and we're not that close, so if you could just go with me, that would be nice, And so we did do that. But then when we got right up to the courtroom, some lady I didn't know, she stood up and she's, hi, my name's whoever. And I'm like, what is going on right now? And she said, I'm going to go with you. And she had like her little tissues and we went into the courtroom and my mom stayed outside.
She got so close.
I know, so close.
She was like, I think
you do better when you know better, but then, you were there. You were there.
Tell me.
Yeah.
Tell me. I can go this far, man, but I just can't go in. I can't see him. Or just explain yourself, you know what I mean? So anyway, another like, oh my gosh, I thought my mom was going to sit there with me. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be strong today. And then, I don't know, I'm sitting with whoever with tissues. I'm like, what is your name? Oh my God, So yeah, a lot of it was very, like I said, if I hadn't lived through it, you wouldn't believe.
Right. No.
You know what I mean? Like if you wrote this
layers,
into a,
all these layers of.
Like you want her to be the hero. Like,
yes.
Okay, so she didn't comfort you after you confessed to her. She didn't show up for the first, or she dropped you off for the first one. And like, okay, she's going to go this time. You want her to like claim that good mother status. And then it's like, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah. At the end, no, she's not going in. And yeah, it was always like bittersweet like that, like, okay, well, she did something, but just not what I would have wanted. Yeah. It's not what I would do for my kids,
So I know at one point you said you just wanted him fixed. You didn't necessarily want him to go to jail.
Right.
And
Yeah, I said that to the prosecutor. I just want, like, put him in therapy and send him back. You know what I mean? Like, fix him. And he's like, he knew I didn't understand, And he's like, Amanda, there's no way that I cannot sentence him to some kind of jail time. Mm-hmm. And I begged for him not to go down. I'm like, it's not going to do anything. If anything, it'll mess him up more. I just don't understand what the point. I'm like, I know it's wrong, but I'm just saying, I'd rather him have to be like, I don't know, house arrest or therapy or something that can like fix him, And so we fought about that a lot. And he's like, that's not going to happen. Like, I mean, he could have done years, like maybe never gotten out for what he did. But because he took compassion on me, he did 3 months.
3 months.
I know people hate that, but it was for me.
So you were his advocate to not do jail time, which, again, in this book, I was just, this kindness that you have, most people are going to be so mad and want the maximum. And you still, like, it just saw that kindness over and over in this book. And I'm like, how is she so graceful? Like, in the end, you found why, like Jesus, God. But even before you found that, you had that within you.
Put that in me. I just didn't I know people need to do the time for their crime. And maybe because he was my dad, I just saw it different. But I just felt like, what is the point of sticking him in a cell? Like, I just want someone to help him with whatever hurts why he did this. Can we just get to a solution? And so that sentence, I know, makes no sense compared to the years of hell he put me through, and even long after the abuse ended. But I feel like prosecutors, they do their job. They prosecute. And maybe for the one time in his career, I don't know him. I don't know the other cases, but he listened to me.
Yeah, I find that shocking too.
Of all the people,
Yeah.
Of all the people that could have listened and didn't, he's one that heard me. he really listened against his better judgment, against what he was born to do. He said, I'm going to listen to her.
I didn't read that in the book about only getting the 3 months. It's shocking to me. Did he get counseling?
He did. So he had to do counseling in the prison. He had to write a lot of things out. And actually, I court ordered him to counseling when he got out. And so it was very structured. Like, I showed up half hour before he was supposed to be there. They would bring me, there's no waiting room. You go with the therapist right away. And then when they show up, they put him in a separate room. And then they have to knock on the door. And if I say come in, then he can come in. If I change my mind, I say nothing or no, and then he has to go away. Because he had a restraining order that the court put on him. So he wasn't allowed to just be in contact with me at all. But I did have this avenue to work towards. The prosecutor knew it was important for me to try to put something back together. And so they had let me know, when he gets out, you can do this. And I do find it odd that they didn't put in their judgment any allowance for me to have therapy, because I didn't realize then that I was going to need that. And by the time I realized it and how much expensive it was, I'm like, how could nobody have thought about this? How is this possible, But they didn't, and it worked out. But that one piece where we had a court-appointed mediator to work out these two therapy sessions. And he was not allowed to speak freely. He had to already come having written down what he was supposed to say, and all he was allowed to say was what he had done. And so that was, I don't know who makes this crap up, because I'm not sure that it was super helpful to have it itemized, from this date to this date, it was this many 1,000 times I did this and this many 100 times. Oh my, it was I knew it was bad, but to be able to quantify it, and it was mind blowing. Yeah. It almost just made it, I think, worse. Oh my gosh,
In 2 counseling sessions, I'm not thinking that is any type of long-term care for anybody or anything. No. You're just getting to know someone's name after 2 visits.
Right. And, well, I was young, and I didn't really have anybody to help me navigate it. So had I known better, I probably would have said, okay, well, we need to do this longer. But that was what the court allowed or paid for, or he paid for, I guess. And so it was 2. And it was really the whole point of it was for me to be able to tell him what I wanted to say. Mm-hmm. But then when he told me everything he did and stuff that I didn't even know that he did, I was like, oh my gosh. I thought I was prepared, I have the upper hand and I'm going to tell you something, and I was like, holy shit, oh my gosh. Okay. But yeah, but at the last session, I let him know, listen, I love you. I forgive you. I hope you live a happy life, but you just can't be in mine. Mm-hmm. I just don't trust you.
Did he hear that?
Yeah. Oh, he's never pushed to contact me or anything. When we did 19 years later connect, I found him. I found his wife. Got to talk on the phone, but he does not text me. I have his number. He has mine. He does not contact me. He doesn't call me. He doesn't do anything. And now, though, that's because he's a Jehovah's Witness and I'm not. And I tell him very openly about my Jesus and how much he has done for me, and he wants nothing to do with that. That's not allowed in his religion. So it's funny to be left by the one who I should leave him, I guess. Right. But it doesn't work that way.
Can you hear me, Lord, and can you lead me to the light?
It's weird. You think, sexual abuse, that's the worst thing that can happen, but there's so many other things about it that hurt so much worse. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that that's unique to me. I think it's for everybody. Mm-hmm. There's how we handle people's hurt matters. And some things hurt way worse than the physical things that he did.
Mental health now is talked about.
Right, yeah.
And processing what you've been through. And then, no. At that time, people didn't talk about bad things. You just get through it. You move on.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't talk about emotions.
Yeah, or even the adults, they didn't talk about why they did things. That wasn't for the kids to know.
No, it's none of your business.
It's none of your business. This is the adult stuff, and even though it affects your entire life, we're not going to tell you what's going on or explain ourselves in the least bit.
Or ask how it feels.
Or ask. Yeah. Well, how do you feel? It may not change anything, but how do you feel about this? To just be able to get it out. And I know it's shaped how I raise my kids.
Yeah.
They're not running the house. I do, but I don't feel the need to keep everything from them.
Oh, yeah. I'm very open.
I'm very open. To me, it's like, some things are good, some things are not so good, but in the end, we end up knowing what they are. So let's just be honest.
I wonder if, just devil's advocate here, your mom knowing that her leaving triggered that? Did she ever say at all?
So I was very angry with her for a long time. Very, very angry with her. More angry with her than even him. Because I blamed her. Like, if it wasn't for her leaving and in the way she left, like, she could leave, but why not take us with her?
Yeah.
She didn't just leave. I mean, I write about in the book, when she left, she left. She dumped us with, when she left, it was my grandparents took us during the week and my dad came every weekend. My mom, I had a period of time, like a year, I didn't even see her. She was gone, and then she showed up one day married and wanted to pick us up and take us to the new house with her new life and husband and some other kid. I locked myself in the bathroom and I wouldn't go. I'm like, yo, you can come back next week. I don't go on your time. Like, who are you picking anyway? I was so angry about that, and even in that relationship, she was having babies and I was at home taking care of them, and she would be off, gone. I'd come home from 7th grade off the bus, and my stepdad would leave me with the 2-month-old, and she was already at work, and he would leave for the night. And the monitor, like the part that you listen to, was in my room, because I would do my homework. I took care of my brother, and then my other stepbrother, and then the baby that they just had. So I'm 13, and I have 3 kids at home, and I need to make food. She would leave me instructions on how to make the dinner. But it was insane, this life that it always seemed to work out just the way she wanted. She could just stay around for just enough time, and then she loved it. Her and my stepdad worked at the city together. So she was a dispatcher and he was the officer. And then on her days off, she would go ride around in the cop car with him. So she was just never around. So it wasn't like she became aware of this situation that happened and then she changed. She was always on vacation or somewhere else. She was always like out running. She didn't change. It was just, well, this is difficult for me. And I would tell her, I need someone here for me. And she's like, but what about me? I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be better at this parenting thing when I get to do it. You guys are the worst. It was so frustrating. So yeah, it's like sexual abuse, but it's so much more than that. It is just a lack of compassion and care, and that is very difficult for kids to deal with.
It's like the pebble, and it's the ripple effect.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it is so much. I mean, I did eventually. She never answered. Well, she was diagnosed with cancer, and I wholeheartedly believe that it was because of all the stuff that she ran from and didn't deal with. I think it just ate her up inside. Yeah. Whether she actually admitted it, she never did to me, but I do think it just came back with a vengeance. Inside, it just built up, and she knew. The movie played for her, I think. Like, I set this in motion. This hell that she went through and all of this mess. And, at 36, she was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. And I'm older than she ever lived to be. I'm almost 43. I think she was 41 when she passed.
Wow.
My brothers were in elementary school, 10, 11 years old. And the rest of us were in our 20s or 19 and then 20s. And it's just, I don't know. I think that's another reason it's so important to talk about it, because you're not going to get away from these things. There's hard stuff that happens to all of us, but how we deal with it matters. We need to talk about it. Yeah. We need to be honest about it. And yeah, there are things like therapy and counseling, but there's even like more amazing things when you realize, okay, God is not mean. He didn't do this to me. And he can work things out even in the midst of all this. And he can bring in healing where there's just nothing but pain. And so these answers that I thought I needed from my mom while she was doing her cancer treatment, I sat down, I had like a list. Like your list, Brandy. Right? I had my favorite,
I have my highlighter.
Yeah.
I'm getting these answers.
Yeah, like she's going to die soon and I'm going to finally get what I need from her.
Okay, please answer clearly and concisely.
Exactly. I wanted to know certain things, but as I sat there every Friday for hours on end while that poison dripped into her, she would talk just about being a person and a woman. And what I learned, I never asked my questions, but what I learned was she had a hard time growing up with her mother, who was very devoutly religious in that Jehovah's Witness religion. And it was her way or the highway. Everything was black and white, and there was no other choice about it. And my mom just really wanted to create a different situation for us kids. And she didn't tell us, she tried to show us. Like, you don't have to live this way. You can choose other ways, and you don't have to make everybody happy. You can make yourself happy. I understood by her saying her stories and her, I don't agree with a lot of it, and I think she overshot a lot. But it finally helped me understand, like, she's just a person too. Mm-hmm. Just trying to figure it out. Like, didn't figure out a lot of things, realizing too late she didn't get it right. But it made me, I didn't hate her anymore. I wasn't mad at her. I could forgive her. I'm like, okay, you're your own kind of messed up. I just happened to be there for the show.
Right.
And you're my what not to do.
And my what not to do. How about, yeah. I tell my kids all the time, like, if Grandma Gwenny was here and she said do this, you just be sure to do the opposite. Like, not many people are that way, but for sure hers was that way. I just do.
I totally relate.
Yeah. But I love her, you know what I mean? I feel like her legacy is bad when I talk about it, but my mom was amazing. Like, a bright, funny woman. She was absolutely crazy in, like, all the bad ways and then some of the good ways. But she was just, huge. Like, her personality, she was this tiny little 5'1" black lady, just... Yeah, she loved shoes. Even when she couldn't walk anymore, she would still order shoes from Zappos. That was like before Amazon was like a big thing, like even after she died, there were shoes coming to the door, and I inherited like 1,000 pairs of shoes. I didn't know. And that was one thing about her, like, so irritating to somebody like me. And I'm like, that's a lot of money. I don't know. Okay, how can we pay the rent next month? You know what I mean? I'm very like super worried about everything, and she just didn't worry about anything. She lived, and so I can kind of appreciate that in her of, even though she knew she wasn't even going to wear that next pair of shoes because it was coming 3 weeks later beyond what she was going to have.
It gave her joy ordering.
It did.
Yeah.
She was okay. Like, you know what? I love those and I want to have them. Yeah. And I'm going to do it. And so I don't agree. I'm not like her. I was like my dad more, but I can appreciate, her own version of weird and different, Yeah.
Again, I see that kindness that you have. Like, you see that brighter side throughout things. It's inspiring.
So now, in regards to Jehovah's Witness, and where were you once it all came out in the open? Like, I think you mentioned you stayed with the church until in your 20s.
Yeah.
Despite them keeping the secret and not really doing anything with it.
Right. But I think at 15, like, he was going again to tell on himself. The first time I was young, maybe 11, somewhere around there. The very first time he said, I'm going to tell the elders what I've been doing. And I thought, oh, okay, this is going to end. And then after years went on and nothing ended, he told me again, okay, I'm going to go again. Like, I need to stop and I need them to help me. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, I don't want to talk to them, but you go ahead. But then, of course, when I'm there, he comes out of the room and he's like, no, go talk to them. And he never really cared what I wanted. He would act like he cared, but then in the end, I would have to do whatever he asked. And so they said, you know what, we're going to write a letter to the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society in New York, and we're going to ask those guys, because they're supposed to be smarter and more connected to God. Like, they have the direct line to him. And so we're going to ask them what we should do. And then when we get the answer back, we'll let you know. And back then it was snail mail. There was no email. They literally typed out the letter and they mailed it off, and then we waited. And so when they got the letter, I was so excited. I was like, oh, good. They're going to call the police. Like, they're going to finally be told what to do. And they said, you know what? It's happening in your congregation. It's not here, so you handle it the way you want to. And that's when I was like done, and then shortly after that, that's my mom had said, okay, you're going to go to your dad's for the weekend. And I told her this is going on. And so at that point, I took a break because they're not supposed to. The elders are not supposed to share their confidential meetings, but they do. One of the last meetings I went to after at 15, one of the moms had asked me, where I slept last night, because I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. One of the things that the elders tried to do while they were waiting for that letter to come back, they were trying to help me. So they opened up their houses, and they would have me come in and like sleep on the couch at night. So I'd show up at 9:00 at night and just sleep. And then my dad would come in the morning and pick me up, because they were stupid and they thought abuse only happens in the dark.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous. And so not only did it not work, he just abused me during the day, it also opened me up to all kinds of questions. Like, all these people have kids or wives who supposedly don't know what's going on. Well, I mean, you could put 2 and 2 together. Like, why is only the daughter coming, and why? Why is he dropping her off, and why is he picking him up? So they all knew what was going on. It was spreading through the rumor mill in the congregation. And once they decided that they weren't going to do anything, I just stopped going. It was so humiliating to me to have people wonder where I was sleeping and what's going on, and whispering around. And it was my worst nightmare. I never wanted to tell anybody because I was afraid it would like end up on the news and everybody would know. And then, oh my gosh, everybody would think I was just disgusting and broken. And it was kind of my worst nightmare coming to fruition right in front of my face. Like, all these people looking at me and talking about me, and I can't do anything about it. So once my mom, set things in motion, I did take a break for a couple years. I didn't go. And then when I did go back, because it was the only thing I knew, like, this is the people that I know, this is the thing I understand. I don't necessarily like it, but I understand it. I'm familiar with it. So when I moved out at 18, I found my own congregation. It was in a different part of town. People mostly that didn't know me. If they did know, they kept it quiet, didn't humiliate me. And I started my life over, and I ended up getting married at 19 and moving an hour away, moving to Tacoma. And that it was even better because even less people knew me, So as I moved around, it seemed like I got further away from him, although I didn't. There was always people who knew about him and about me, and it would always come back to me. Somebody would find me and let me know they knew who I was. It was my own kind of famous in like the worst, most humiliating kind of way. But it was what I knew. Even when I moved to Arizona, I was 23 and I could start over. I'm an adult, and I went back to the congregation. I found one, and I just always found comfort of people know me. I know them. They know I'm here. If I need something, I have someone I can call. I have people that I look forward to seeing a few days a week. And this is the program that I understand. It really didn't have much to do with faith, God, religion, or even more than once I got up and just walked out of the Kingdom Hall because I'm like, this is the most crazy crap ever. How does anyone actually believe this? That I don't believe this. Yeah. But trying to explain that to a bunch of people who are like nodding their head and just drinking the Kool-Aid, like, there's no point to even saying anything. They're not in the same place I'm at. So I just get up and leave. But it wasn't consistent. Until I was like 26, 27. And then I finally had an experience that finally woke me up. So in Jehovah's Witness world, there's like the main area where everybody sits. And the kids and the adults all sit together. There's no children's ministry. And then there's usually a classroom, is what they call it, in the back. And it has a glass partition, so you can see what's happening in the main hall area and a door. But it's soundproof. So if you have little kids, or if they break off to like a separate school where somebody else is going to give like a talk in the back and there's a talk in the front, you don't hear over each other. So a lot of times people who are disfellowshipped or like kicked out, they're not in good standing with the congregation, they're not allowed to speak to people. They usually come in a couple minutes late and then they leave right when it ends. And they're not allowed to talk to anyone. That's one of the punishments, is you're not allowed to talk to them. And so I would sit in the back with my Hudson. He was very rambunctious and wild. And so I would go back there and, close the door, and he could run around. And there was this woman, tall, beautiful black woman. And she had this cute little 3-year-old girl. And we would sit back there. And she always forgot her songbook. I don't know why she couldn't remember the songbook, but she never remembered the songbook. So I would share mine with her. And people would see when they would get up to go to the bathroom that I would be associating with this woman. And even though she was disfellowshipped, I didn't care. I had been in trouble many times. My mom was disfellowshipped and dying of cancer, and they removed all my privileges because I had moved to Arizona to help take care of her before she passed. So I had long gotten over what they thought about me. I was there because I wanted to be there, and if you didn't want me there, well, I liked being there even more because it's bugging you. So, I shared my songbook with this woman, and one night I noticed as we left the Kingdom Hall, she was walking down the sidewalk. This is in Mesa, Arizona. And I mean, I don't know if you know Arizona, but everything's very far away. It's not like here where you can walk to the store or walk to even the corner of the street. It's miles in between lights. It's so spread out there in the desert. And she's walking with heels on and her little 3-year-old at 9:30 at night. It's dark. I just, oh my God, that does not make any sense. She always had this Lexus SUV that she came in, really nice car. And first, I don't know. I didn't understand. Like, where's the car? Why are they walking? So I pulled over I had a big conversion van, and I just cut her off. And I pulled over in front of her, and I got out. I'm like, what are you doing? You cannot walk out here. It's not safe. It's dark, and it's so far from anything. What are you doing? And she said, oh, my daughter locked my keys in the car. And if I don't go to every meeting, they won't let me back in. You have to go for like 4 or 6 months, never missing anything, follow the rules perfectly, and then maybe they'll let you back in the good graces of the church, And so she wasn't going to miss this meeting, even though her daughter locked her keys in the car. They literally walked all the way to the Kingdom Hall that night. And I said, okay, well, you're getting in my van, and I'm going to take you home. And she's like, no, you're going to get in trouble. You're going to get in trouble. And all of these cars are coming out of the Kingdom Hall. We're right across the street from it. The elders, the ministerial servants, the pioneers, all these people that pride themselves on their title within this congregation. They're a big somebody somewhere. And not one of them stopped to see if these 2 ladies need any help on the side of the street. And I said, you know what? If God doesn't want me to give you a ride home, then let him strike my tires right now. Okay, nothing happened. Get in.
Thanks for joining us for part 2 of Amanda's story. Amanda's book, Fighting for Me, Overcoming Sexual Abuse and Becoming the Person I Was Meant to Be, can be found on Amazon. A link is on our website at lostsheepfoundpodcast.com. For those navigating the aftermath of sexual abuse, seeking support is vital. There are organizations and professionals ready to guide you on the path to healing. We have included one resource which can be found on our website. Want to know when part 3 is available? Subscribe on our website, lostsheepfoundpodcast.com, or follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
And the ice and snow melts away. When the tears we've cried have all run dry and we find the rainbow's end, we'll be walking in the sunshine, walking in the sunshine, walking in the sunshine with him.